Right, Lindsay, thank you very much. The proposed data center in Box Elder County is causing a lot of drama, including a host for a reality-based TV show. They are joined now by Lincoln with Utah locals Gabi Finlayson and Jackie Morgan.
All right, good morning, Ron. These two, Jackie and Gabi, are with Elevate Utah. I want to start there. For those who haven't heard of Elevate Utah, what is it? Define it for us.
Yeah, so we run a social media account, Elevate_Utah, where we inform people about what's going on in politics in Utah. So we talk about the legislative session, but we also talk about local politics all year round, and we try and engage people and activate them to do something about it.
And Gabi, it's fair to say that a goal of Elevate Utah is to sort of break one-party control in the state, and it's a left-leaning organization, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We believe that monopolies are bad for the economy, and they're also bad for politics, and so we're hoping to put some more competition into our political system and hopefully, make it a little more balanced. Okay, well, knowing that, let's talk about this data center. Of course, you two do discuss politics in Utah. Kevin O'Leary, why in the world is Kevin O'Leary throwing out allegations that you work with China? Talk about that.
It's a great question.
Yeah, I would love to ask him that.
You don't know?
Honestly, we have no idea how he decided to make that connection, because obviously we have no connection to the Chinese government. We are not Chinese Communist Party members, affiliates, anything like that. And so it was quite a shock to hear him say that, especially on a national television show like Fox News.
Yeah, recap for those who haven't heard. What did he say exactly?
Yeah, so we've been engaging people with this data center, which has obviously had a lot of outcry in Utah. And we've posted a few social media videos about it, letting people know that it's happening. And Kevin O'Leary, went on to Fox News and he accused us of being a cell operating within Utah and working with the Chinese Communist Party. He named our company, Elevate Strategies, where we run Democratic campaigns, and Gabi specifically.
Yes, all because he believes that the only people that would be against a data center like this are people that are against our national security, aka it must be China.
Okay, I'm going to ask, are you two working with China at all?
No.
There you go. There's the answer from
Never
Gabi
thought we'd
and,
have to answer
Jackie.
that.
No.
What are your arguments about this proposed data center? We've heard a lot of back and forth, a lot of opinions about this. And I'm wondering, do you find this is maybe bridging some political divides in Utah? Because this is in a rural part of the state, and rural areas are traditionally more conservative and Republican, and we've seen a lot of outcry there too.
Yeah, I mean, I think people are fairly frustrated with this, not only because of the environmental impacts, the scale, the size, the energy, the carbon emissions, everything that this is going to do to our environment, and that it affects all of us, not just Box Elder County, but it also affects the rest of the state, the Great Salt Lake, and everything in between. But I think also people are frustrated about the way this was rolled out, about the way that our elected officials and politicians have responded to it, and the timeline with which it has sped through, and there hasn't been a lot of engagement with the actual community.
Gabi, let me ask you, we've heard some of the arguments for this proposed data center. I believe proponents have said, look, this will be using recycled water, not fresh water coming in. And what do you say to some of those arguments that they've made?
Yeah, I think I totally understand that, there are a lot of folks that are saying that this is not going to be as bad as people think. But I think to Jackie's point, the problem here is that so many of those questions are unanswered. And so much of that they're saying, well, we can't explain to you exactly how the science works because there are NDAs and there are patents and all this stuff. And so just trust us on this, that we are not going to ruin the environment. But when you look at especially some of Kevin O'Leary's other data centers that he's been working on, they make big promises about how the environmental impact will not be significant and it won't be detrimental. And then they continue to kind of roll that back, and you see sort of those regulations sort of fall out and those promises that aren't kept. And so I think part of the concern for Utahns, especially when it comes to the environmental impact, is that we don't know what's going to happen. Those questions are not being answered, and there's been so much back and forth, even on the information coming from not only Kevin O'Leary and the Stratos Project, but also our own governor and our own elected officials who can't quite get a grasp on what's going on. And so I think that's why we've seen such a big outcry about this. And to your point, not just from people on the left or Democrats in the state, because we know when Democrats are mad about something, it usually doesn't get this much attention, but it's because we have so many people across the political spectrum and across the state from all walks of life who are saying, hold on a second, let's actually get some details, let's figure out what's going on, because if this is actually what it sounds like it's going to be, this is going to have a lot of impacts and a lot of problematic things happen for our state.
All right, let's get to some other topics, because I want to move on from the data center thing. What other things in Utah politics should we be focusing on right now from your perspective?
Man, there's so much going on all the time. We just got out of our legislative session, and so seeing all of the laws that they passed this year and in previous years, I think we are also concerned about the judiciary and the impacts on the judiciary. We've seen a lot of news stories about the justices and those retention elections that are coming up. And after the slate of laws that they have passed in the last couple of legislative sessions, I think we are constantly paying attention to the independence of the judiciary and making sure that that is protected, and that we can make sure that people know what's going on in that branch of government as well.
Gabi, let's talk about Elevate Utah one more time, because your goal is to explain Utah politics in an easy and digestible way. How do you go about that?
Yeah, I think even on the national level, it's so hard to keep track of everything going on, let alone adding in kind of state politics and what's going on here. And so what we've tried to do is make it as accessible and simple as possible, trying to digest all the information in our own heads and try and explain it in the most simple way, not because people need things simplified to understand them, but because people are busy. People have a lot of other priorities in their life, and we were sick of hearing, operatives and political people say, well, voters are just uninformed. And we said, well, who's doing the work to inform them? And so what we were trying to do is just give people as much information as we can in as short and as simple way as possible so they can go about their day and also stay informed about Utah politics.
Okay, we're just basically about out of time, but what's the reaction been from the right, the other side of things in Utah politics, to you?
It's interesting. We know that they're paying attention, and I think that means that we're doing something right. I think that we are trying to bring a new voice to Utah that hasn't been uplifted enough, and we want to be able to try and make sure that people know that they aren't alone here.
Okay, excellent. And where can people find you, Gabi, if they want to search online?
Our handles on all social media are at elevate_Utah, UTAH, and you can find our Substack at elevateutah.news.
Thank you to both of you for coming in and talking to us.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Appreciate it. All right, I'll send it back to Ron.
All right, very interesting. Thanks, Lincoln. And remember, you can watch ARC Salt Lake anytime on your phone, tablet, or TV. Just check out the highlights from all of our newscasts on the ARC Salt Lake YouTube page. The QR code right there will take you right to it.